we'll do in the Maimorim, we'll look at in volume 3. So this is the 45th Maimer, and this is the Maimer of בחודש השלישי לצאת בני ישראל מארץ מצרים, which the Rebbe said in Shabbos Parshas במדבר, מבורכים בחודש וערח ראש חודש סיון, in the year ה'תשכטת. Later on, this Maimer was printed in the contrast, in the booklet for Rosh Chodesh Sivan, Tavshin Nun, and over there, this was in the introduction that this is in honor of the Kras, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, and the date given that this is being published is Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan of the Chodesh HaShlishi, which is the third month of the year Tavshin Nun. בחודש, start the Maimer. So, בחודש השלישי לצאת בני ישראל מארץ מצרים. On the third month, from the time the Yidden left Mitzrayim, the Yidden left Mitzrayim on Nisan. So, Sivan was the third month. Bayom Hazeh, on this day in the month of Sivan, Bo Midbar Sinai, they came to the desert of Sinai. So what does it mean by Yom Hazeh on this day? Which day is this day? So the Gemara. So we find in the Gemara that the Bayom Hazeh means Rosh Chodesh because Ksiv Hacha Bayom Hazeh is a Gzeir Shaveh. Over here in the pasuk it says Bayom Hazeh. We have the word Hazeh. Bo Midbar Sinai. On this day they came to Midbar Sinai. Or Ksiv Hasam, when the Yidden and Parshas Boy, when Hashem was telling Moshe and Aaron about the happenings of Yetzias Mitzrayim and about the Korban Pesach, etc., the pasuk starts off over there, HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem Rosh Chodoshim. That this, again, it says Hazeh, this Chodesh of Nisan is the Rosh Chodoshim. When was this Hazeh? This is Malahalan Rosh Chodesh. So just like over there, Chodesh Zelochem Rosh Chodesh was on Rosh Chodesh, is Afkan Rosh Chodesh. Here too, it is Rosh Chodesh. So when it says Bayom Hazeh, it's just like the Chodesh Hazeh in Parshas Boy, which is on Rosh Chodesh. Here too, it's on Rosh Chodesh. We'll see soon. The Rebbe will bring down. The posik is HaChodesh means also not only the month, but HaChidush Hazeh. He showed him the renewal of the moon. This means that it was on Rosh Chodesh, and therefore Bayom Hazeh also means Rosh Chodesh. It's Malahal Rosh Chodesh, Havkan Rosh Chodesh. So Behikshu BeTosfos. So Tosfos asks Akasha, why do we need? And the Gemara Shabbos over there, why do we need this extra Gezeira Shaveh? It seems we already have another Gezeira Shaveh from which we can learn when B'chodesh HaShlishi L'tzeis B'nei Yisrael Meretz Mitzrayim Bayom Hazeh, when it was that it wasn't Rosh Chodesh from another Gezeira Shaveh. Because the Masechta Psochim, over there the pasuk by Daber Hashem El Moshe, במדבר סיני, בשנה השני בחודש הראשון. This is in Parshas Bahaloischa. In Parshas Bahaloischa, the Torah records that Hashem speaks to Moshe by the Midbar Sinai on the second year, B'chodesh Harishon. Again, over there is no date of the month. It just says it was in the second year, meaning that it was 1 year after the first Pesach. We went through a whole month from Nisan year and all the month, and we come to the second year. But when a Chodesh Harishon doesn't say. So the Gemara learns over there that this was also on Rosh Chodesh, that when was the Tzivui, Bamidbar Sinai Ban Hashem Chodesh Harishon, tells them about the Yasu B'nei Yisrael Sapesach B'Medar to make the Korban Pesach. So there the Gemara says, Osi Midbar Min Midbar. We're going to learn Midbar from Midbar. Over here it says in the pasuk in Bahaloischa, it says, "Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe b'midbar Sinai." So it says, and over here we're going to learn midbar that it says here from another place in midbar. Ksiv Hacham in midbar Sinai. Ksiv Hosam. This is in the opening of the Chumash of Bamidbar, when the pasuk says to count the Bnei Yisrael. Uksiv Hosam Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe b'midbar Sinai. Says the B'midbar Sinai Boil Moed, and over there it says Bechad LaChodesh Hasheni. And this was in the second month, that was already in the month of Iyar, in which Hashem gave the command to count. But nevertheless, it says Beferish that in the Midbar it was Be'echad LaChodesh. So the Gemara says, Ma'ala Halom B'Rosh Chodesh, Avkan B'Rosh Chodesh. Just like the pasuk in Bamidbar is Rosh Chodesh, also the pasuk in Bahal Loischo Avkan, even though by the Bahal Loischo it just says B'midbar Sinai B'shana Sheni, it doesn't say when, it also took place in Rosh Chodesh. So we already need a Gezerah Shaveh from Bamidbar. Bamidbar, anyways, that where it says Bamidbar, it means B'Rosh Chodesh. So Frek Toisves, Kiv on Shekam B'Posik B'Chodesh HaShlishi Ksiv Midbar. Since also in Baxhodsh HaShlishi it also says Midbar, Amaylo Yolif Hocham Midbar Midbar. So why don't we learn here Midbar Midbar? Already we know that Midbar means B'Yoyim Rosh Chodesh, so Baxhodsh HaShlishi. Midbar Sinai, so we should say that this was on Rosh Chodesh. That's Tosfos Kasha. But the Rebbe says, what kind of a question? Why are we saying we should learn it from Midbar? That's not the same as learning it Hazeh Hazeh. We need to understand this. The L'chaira, it would seem, how Yalfuso Magzeh Shova Hazeh, when we learn out from the Gzeh Shova, because it says here, Bayom Hazeh, from Chodesh Hazeh Lochem, that reveals to us that what is the meaning of Bayom Hazeh is Rosh Chodesh. So when we say Bayom Hazeh, so we're not just saying when it happened, but we are actually telling you and translating you Hazeh means Rosh Chodesh, just like over there. HaChodesh Hazeh means Rosh Chodesh. Hazeh means Rosh Chodesh. As opposed to if we would just learn Midbar, then we don't know what the Taich of Hazeh is. Then he was just teaching us because of that. What is written in the pasuk by Yom Hazeh Bo Midbar Sinai, that Bo Sinai. That it took place on the Rosh Chodesh, but it wouldn't be translating you the word of Hazeh, that Hazeh means Rosh Chodesh. It would not be understood the meaning of Bayom Hazeh if we just told you when it took place. And the Rebbe adds in the bracket, V'oit Yisroin, Agzeh Shova Hazeh Hazeh, Al Agzeh Shova Midbar Midbar. There's another advantage in the Gzeh Shova Hazeh over the Gzeh Shova Midbar Midbar. Ki HaChodesh Hazeh Pirushei Urosh Chodesh. Because HaChodesh Hazeh means that this is Rosh Chodesh. Chidush Chodesh. Mashe'en Kein Midbar Sinai Ve'echad LaChodesh, as opposed to being in the desert of Sinai and the fact that it was Rosh Chodesh, it's not the translation that it was Rosh Chodesh, it happened to be at Rosh Chodesh. So my Yisvaras HaTosfos the Havale the Meil of Midbar Midbar. So what is Tosfos' question that he should have learned out Midbar from it? Oizbeis. Yuv on Zeh Alpi Hamavur B'Torah Divra Maschil Zeh. We will understand this based on what is explained in Torah that opens with the same opening of בחודש השלישי לצאת מישראל. So it says over there, the Iker Kabbalas HaTorah, what is the main idea? What happened that we received the Torah? Is Kameshakosu Betchilas Inyan de Matan Torah, is as it's written in the beginning of the subject of Matan Torah. What does it say right in the beginning? Vaydaber Elikim es kol hadvarim ha'ela lemer. That Elikim spoke all these words lemer. What does it mean? Hashem speaks all the word of the Torah, that the Torah should be at the level of lamer. What does it mean, lamer, to say? The Pirush Tevas lamer b'posuk zeh. What is the meaning of lamer in this pasuk? Usually, lamer would mean to go ahead and give it over to somebody else that wasn't there at the time that the pasuk was said. But over here, since all Yidden was there, what does it mean? Who is this to say over to? So what is the meaning of lamer in this pasuk? Who shebishas matan Torah niten hakoyach l'kol echad miYisrael. That during matan Torah there was given the power to each one of the Jewish people. Shalimud haTorah shaloi. That when you learn Torah, kol advarim eila, lamer, kol advarim eila. Advarim eila means all of Torah. So when we learn kol hadvarim eila shagoy koy gam al kol haTorah kula, it doesn't only refer to the following aseres hadibros, but it refers to all the Torah. So when a Yid learns any part of Torah, yiyah bayif in the lamer, it should be in a way of lamer, which means lachzir hadvarim shakodesh baruch hu emer. When you learn Torah, you're basically repeating the words Hashem says. You're just repeating Hashem says. So the pasuk says, "Tan l'shoini imrasecha." My tongue will respond what you say. So really, Hashem is saying it, and when you're learning it, and when you're saying it, what you're basically doing, you are repeating that which Hashem said. The Torah is your saying. My tongue should answer, should respond, just like one responds. You say it, I repeat after you. So basically, we're just repeating after. When we're learning Torah, we're repeating after Hashem. Hashem is saying it. And this is also the connection of Matan Torah to the Yom Tov Shavuos. Because the Yom Tov of Shavuos comes after Sfiras HaOmer, which reaches the highest level, the 50th level. And the same thing is the Torah on such a level of Tan L'Shoni Imrosecha is only when it comes to that level of Bittul of Keser, which we get by Chag HaShavuos. The Chag HaShavuos, Amshochas HaKeser. Chag HaShavuos is we draw down Keser. As we know, the explicit meaning of the pasuk, count 50 days, even though we're only counting 49 days, 7 times 7. So why does it say you will count 50th day? That Shebachag HaShavuos, when Shavuos comes on the festival of Shavuos, Nimshach Shar Hanun de Bina, then it extends the 50th gate of Bina. V'Shar Hanun Hu HaKesed. What is the 50th gate? That is Kesed. So we see that on Shavuos is the Hamshach of Kesed. So this is connected to Matan Torah Leimod. This that on Matan Torah the power was giving. That the study of Torah of a Yid should be in total self-negation and bittul, so that he is not an entity on his own at all, Is only like responding after somebody's reading. So how could we get to that level of Torah? Because a Matan Torah, it extends, comes down, drawn down the level of Keser. So therefore we have that level of Bittel, and therefore you can learn Torah lamer with total Bittel, just without being an entity at all, just like responding to somebody who's reading. וזהו בחודש השלישי גומר ביום הזה בו מדבר סיני. And this also fits in that on the third month, on this day, on Rosh Chodesh, they came to Midbar Sinai, to this level of bittul takes place on Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Rosh Chodesh Sivan hoisa chana lekabbalas haTorah. Rosh Chodesh Sivan was the preparation for receiving the Torah. Ki beRosh Chodesh hu moilad halavana. Because on Rosh Chodesh is the birth of the new moon. So then at the birth, it's only a point when it's first visible, firstborn. And that points to her self-negation. That it has nothing of its own. The moon, it's total bittul. And it's just a nakuda, just something which is a reflection of the light, but on its own it has nothing. And the same thing is by the Yidden who are compared and they count to the Levana. When it comes to the Chodesh, Uzman Hamuchshar, that is the fitting time, Legalis Koyach Habitl Sheyesh Nebikolachim Yisrael, to reveal the power of self-effacement that every Yid has, a level of bittul. That's on Rosh Chodesh, because that's when there is the level of bittul in the world, and Yidden are like counter the Levana, the compared one, they have the level of bittul. So that's why V'lochein Rosh Chodesh Sion u'ha'achona lekabbalas haTorah. That's when Rosh Chodesh Sion is the preparation for kabbalas haTorah, because kabbalas haTorah created that level of bittul lamer. That the study of Torah of the person should be in a way of subjugation, just like somebody responding to somebody who is reading. So that's one level that took place on Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the level of bittul of the Levana, which is the level of bittul Einacharaket. So my Mary continues further. Oid biur bazer, another explanation in this, that Rosh Chodesh Sivan hu ha'achana lekabbalas haTorah. Rosh Chodesh Sivan is the preparation for receiving the Torah. The Betzeis Yisrael mi Mitzrayim. When the Yidden left Egypt, they started counting the Sfiras HaOmer. The counting of the Sfiras HaOmer, Shiachona lekabbalas haTorah. That's the preparation. That is a preparation for receiving the Torah. The Zayin HaShavua is the Sfiras HaOmer, and the 7 weeks that we count for the Omer, which is Shiva Shavua is Tisparlach. 7 weeks you should count. And Keneged Zayin Hamidas, that corresponds to the 7 emotions. That's the way we are reaching the preparation, by sorting out and counting the 7 emotions, 7 spheres. Rosh Chodesh Sivan shu Yom Hagimel, the Shavua Zayin. Chodesh Sivan is already the 3rd day. We already count 3 days of the 7th week. So you're already in the level of Malchus, and you're already in the 3rd day, which is the Teferes Shebemalchus. Yeshnam Kvar Gimel Hamidis Chagas. So you already have the 3 midas of Chagas in Malchus, Shem Ikra midas, the Sfiras HaMalchus. They're the main midas of Sfiras HaMalchus. main as opposed to Netzach Yisod Nemach, but we already have Chesed, Gvur, and Tiferet sorted out. It's as if you already have the entire 7 week. And that's when Rosh Chodesh Sivan they come to Midbar Sinai. Because then the main preparation of Matan Torah has been completed, because already in the 7th Midah, the Sfiras HaMalchus, we already have the main. So it comes out, we have 2 explanations. One, Rosh Chodesh is the level of Bittul, Moilad HaLavana, and 2, that basically all these Midos have already been sorted out. At least the first 3 parts of Malchus have also been sorted out. That's why that's already the time for Matan Torah, getting rid of Matan Torah. Why do we need these 2 explanations? Yesh Loimar, so we can say, Zeh shemevayir b'hamaimer, shnei biyurim, b'zeh sheberish chodesh Sion, u'ha'achon l'kabbalas haTorah. The fact that Maimer gives 2 explanations why Rosh Chodesh Sivan is the preparation of Kabbalas HaTorah. By Yom Hazeh Bo Midbar Sinai, they came to Sinai. It gives the 2 explanations. Why do we need 2 explanations? Because we actually need the person, the 2 levels by the person. We need the person to be on the highest level that he could. And we also need him to be in Bittul. So these are 2 explanations. He's already up to the 7th Sfira, which means that's the highest level. He's sorted out. He's already done at the 3 days in the 7th level. It's the highest level. And also that it's Bittul. That's why it's the Meral Halavana. Because preparing to receiving the Torah, there are 2 aspects. Hashleimus da'adam, that the person should be on a perfect level, wholesome level. So in order for the person to be fit to receive the Torah, it needs to be in total wholesomeness, in a complete level. So he has to have all these sephiros, all these midos sorted out. And then we also need v'abitl shaloi, but we also need the subjugation. Why the kivon shahat Torah hi l'mayla be'ein aroich meha'adam. Since Torah is above infinitely, without any comparison from the human being. And this is a foretory that Torah is even higher than the supreme worlds. So certainly it's so much incomparable beyond our world from the person. If the person is an entity, so your entity is as if it's opposite of the Torah. Because Torah is so much bigger. And if you say, oh, my somebody, so then as if there is something, but there you're really no comparison to Torah. And in order for a person to receive the Torah, that comes through his bit. And that's why the Maimer explains this that on Rosh Chodesh Sivan they came to Midbar Sinai. And they were ready to receive the Torah who because in Rosh Chodesh Sivan have both matter, both aspects. You have the fact that on Rosh Chodesh is the birth, is the moilad of the Levana. That is only a Nekuda, and that is the level of Bitl. Vizeh, and also And also v'zeh, and also the other aspect, שבחודש סיון nishlamu ikrei hamidas, and that the Chodesh סיון, the main of the midas, have been completed. Gam b'sfiras hamalchus, also in sfiras hamalchus, the seventh of the spheres. Shleimus Odom, in the whole of the person. Shnei Yonim Bash Shleimus the Odom. And these two aspects in the wholesomeness of the persons, Senasis Alidei Sfiras Ha'omer, that takes place through counting of the Omer. Shes Sfiras Ha'omer, who in Yembir V'zech number one, that Sfiras Ha'omer is the sorting out and the refinement of the Midas. That's one level of Shleimus. And also, Alidei Sfiras Ha'omer, and also that through Sfiras Ha'omer, then you're mamshich even the 49th level of Shari Bina, the level of Keser, as he said before, that we have through the level of Sfiras Ha'omer. So we have the level of Bittel and we have the level of Shleimus. Within Shleimus, the Shleimus of the Zichel Hamidus and the Shleimus that we come to the Memtes Shari Bina. Dalet. Zehu Bayom Hazeh Bo Midbar Sinai, and this is why we say Bayom Hazeh Bo on the Chodesh Midbar and Sinai. We're going to explain now the two ideas of Midbar and also idea of Sinai. Bayir b'Torah Oir, so explains in Torah Oir the Midbar Maloshen Dibur. That Midbar is the Loshen Dibur of speech. V'nikra midbar or medaber b'toisuvais mem, with an additional mem. So it's dibur medaber. The mem, the word, the letter mem, who ma'oisios he'amantidas, the hey aleph mem nun tos yuvov, shemoirim al haktonas einyan. They point of the diminishing of the subject. So medaber, almost dibur, but not quite dibur. Just like the aleph, the mem, all these letters point to a lessening of the subject. This is to show shadibru bebit. So while there is dibur, it's medaber. It's a diminished level of dibur, level of bit. So while the Torah explains this on the lashon of dibur, but this is also related to actually midbar, not only dibur midaber, but it's midbar. The Inyan that Rebbe adds in the bracket, the Inyan shayach gam midbar kipshutei. This actually has a connection to literally the midbar. Eretz lo yizrua, a land that has not been sown. When speech, that has to do when it's bibitl. When dibur is based on his intellect and his will, haseichel v'harotzim, so then the intellect and the will, hemazriya. That's the soul. Shal yidei zeu tzmichas hadibur, that makes the dibur grow. That's when it's done seichel v'harotzim. The Indian midbar eretz loizruahu, but what is the idea of a midbar when it's not sown is shahadibur, the Torah, that the dibur of Torah shem midaber, that the speech of Torah that he works, udvaravaya, it's not his seichel rotzim, it's Hashem's word. And it's not sown from his intellect and his will, so therefore it's a midbar. So the midaber and midbar are closely associated because it's a desert, because it's not based on seichel v'rotzim. That midaber is level of bittul, and that's when it's a midbar. And the second thing is also Sinai. Midbar and Sinai. The Sinai is, why is it called Sinai? The Gemara says, "Who because a hatred came down to the nation of the world." Who, and that is the aspect Torah nikras toshia. The Torah is called weakening. because it weakens the power of the other side. So that also is associated with the fact that they came there. So he has the two aspects. We have Midbar and Sinai. So he says like this: the fact that they came to Midbar, Rosh Chodesh, Halevana, Yom HaLevana, V'chein Yisrael Shemen Levana, in the Kudah B'Levad. That's the idea that it's only on the Kudah. That's why it's a Midbar. It's a level of Bittul. It's only on the Kudah. Midbar Sinai, and the fact that came to Midbar Sinai, Sheyordu Simli Yetzer Hora, that is weakens and hatred the Yetzer Hora. The Fishay B'Yoim Hazeh Rosh Chodesh Sivan Nishlam Habiru Shalikra Midas Nefesh Bahamis. The sorting out of the main mids of the Nefesh Bahamis took place on Rosh Chodesh. So that is the Sina, the Mateshes Keicha Sitra Achra, and the Midbar, the Bittul, that's the level of Midbar. So the Midbar is the level of Bittul, and Sinai is the level of the Nishlam, the bitter of the Midas. I say, Tzorich Lav, so we need to understand the Lefi Hanal, based on the above. This, that on Rosh Chodesh, Sivan, the main of the Midas have been completed. That explains that the people became on a higher and a wholesome level. But in the Maimon Torah Mekasher over there, he ties it to the idea that on Rosh Chodesh is the birth of the Levana, Inyan Habitul, the idea of subjugation. Subjugation is the negation of any shleimus of the person. On one hand, we're saying over here that the Chodesh Sivan, you counted and you reached already the level that you're in Malchus already and you're in Mevarer everything. That points to, as the Rebbe, as explained earlier, the Shleimus Ha'odam. How does that fit that on Rosh Chodesh there's Meilad Alavana, which talks about the subjugation and the lack of mitzias of the person? Inyan Abitl. Shleimar Abir Vazeh, you can say the explanation, the Inyan Meilad Halavana, the idea of the birth of the Levana, Lo Yabitl Shalom, Ela Adrabah. When the Levana is born, it does not say Bittel, but it says Mitzias. It now Shenil Mitziusa. Now it's, before it was nothing. Now it's created. Now there's a Mitzias. By the sun being extended to Levana, now it's here. The fact that it's merely only a point, which points to the bittul subjugation canal, to self-effacement, that means that the Levana's existence, what does it mean that it's bittul? That means that the Metzias Levana Ershala Ibimchinas bittul. What is the existence of the Levana? The oir, the light. That light that it has, what it has is the bittul. What does it mean, bittul? Shenirgosh ba, the Levana is felt in the Levana. Sha'ir shaba, hu loy mishel atzma. It's not her own. It's only that she's receiving it from the sun. In a similar way, this is by the Yidden who counted Levon. The Inyan HaBittel the Rosh Chodesh b'Avodas Sodom. What is the concept of Bittel when we talk about Rosh Chodesh? In Avodas Sodom, who Shametzias Shaloi Ibibittel, that his existence is in Bittel, that what he has is self-negated. And we can say this is what's explained in Torah. This that Rosh Chodesh is called just Yom Hazeh, not saying which day it is. Stam. Uki Yom Hazeh u Avo she'b'chinas Bittul. Because Yom Hazeh, Yom is Avo. Yom Hazeh is in the level of Bittul. That is the Metzias of Bittul. Shemetzias of Bittul, I said. The Yom hu Oir. Yom is light. K'mishakos v'ikra l'kim la'oir Yom. Shem called Oir light. The Avo he Oir. Love is light. V'zehu Yehuda Ilah. And this is the level of Yehuda Ilah, the upper level of Yehud. Shalachein Moshe Rabbeinu Nis, the level of Zeh, Yom Zeh. So Yom is light, and Zeh is a level of Bittul, Yehuda Ilah. Shalachein Moshe Rabbeinu Nisnabu B'Zeh. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu, all the Nevi'im Nisnabu B'Koi, and Moshe Rabbeinu with Zeh, because Zeh is the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, the level of Yehuda Ilah. The Yom Hazeh is Ha'ava Shebebchinas Bittul Yehuda Ilah. It's a level of love. It's meaning it's an Ava in the way of Yehuda Ilah. And meaning that it is a Metzias of Bittul. Ki Mahatimim al Zeh She'ava Nikra B'Shemoir, for the reason, some of the reasons why Ava is called Oid, Ulifisha Ava is pashtus. Love is expansion. V'lochein, and that's why the opposite of that, Lochein Hayira, she kivutz, fear, which is shrink, squeeze. Hepacha is pashtus, the opposite of expansion. Nikra b'shem choshech, it's called choshech. The habitl the Rosh Chodesh. So, what is the bitl of Rosh Chodesh? As we explained before, and the Yom Hazeh, it's not in a way that he is negated from his mitzias. Similar to the bitl of Yira, ki'im it's ava b'bitl kim sheis pashtus hamitzias shaloi b'bitl. That is that the expansion is mitzias is in bittul. That the ava is bittul. It's not a kivutz. It's not a non-mitzias, but it's a mitzias of bittul. This way we can explain how these two inyanim of Rosh Chodesh Sivan are tied together. On one hand, you have bittul, one level of bittul, and also v'hashloma sikra midas, and also the midas are complete. And then I've asked before also the Torah here that it seems like it's a level of bittul. Ki'inya meilad halavana, because what the idea of meilad halavana, it is a metzias. But shametzias ubebitl, as he says, metzias ubebitl, that the levana feels, senses that its metzias is mitzad shemesh and not its own metzias. Now we can explain what Tosfos says, the Havalei, the male of Midbar Midbar, that he should have learned it Midbar from Midbar. Because the fact that on the Rosh Chodesh they came to the level of Midbar, that is a higher, elevated bittul from that, what Rosh Chodesh is called Yom Hazeh. So over there we have This Yom Hazeh is level of Bittel. He said Yehudi law, but Midbar is even higher. The Inyan Yom Hazeh, what's the idea? Yom Hazeh should be Metzias, that he is a Metzias, not just a Metzias, but the Metzias, the Ispashtus. Yom, this is a Metzias of Ispashtus Yom, it's expansion. Elo Shemetzias Shaloi Bebittel. It's a Metzias, it's an expansion, but it's Bittel Hazeh. Hashem kin zeh shevrev shebeshem chodesh Sivan. Bo libchinas midbar, as opposed to when the chodesh Sivan they come to the level of midbar. So that is shadibur shaloi ein dibur atzma klal. It's medaber, it's on its own. Kaina. Shadibur shaloi ein dibur peho odom. And the mouth of the person who rakli the dvar havaya hamadaber al yodi. It's only a vessel to the word of Hashem that speaks to him. Well, derech dvar havaya b'fir novi, similar to dvar Hashem and the novi. The novi repeats what Hashem says to him. So the person learning Torah is basically saying what Hashem says. No mitzias at all. Ubitl hamitzias. That's total negation of existence. Since the main advantage of chodesh Sivan, sheboy bol bitl the midbar, that he came to bitl midbar. That's why there would be room to say Sharem is because of chodesh Sivan. Where does the pasuk hinted that it took place on the chodesh Sivan? Who beteves midbar in the word midbar, because that's the advantage. So why does the Gemara learn it from the Yom Hazeh? The Yom Hazeh sheberesh chodesh Sivan. Take Rosh Chodesh Midbar is greater, but Yom Hazeh in Midbar Sinai sheberesh chodesh Sivan who naile Yosef gam ma'bitl the Midbar. Kidlakamon the Medaber, Kidlakamon is higher than the level of the Medaber, as the Rebbe will explain. So we have the level of Yom Hazeh every Rosh Chodesh. We have the level of Midbar, and we have a Yom Hazeh Midbar Sinai, which is the higher level. That's why Tosfos wanted to learn it out from the pasuk from Midbar. Zayin. Yuv and Zapi Masham Razal will understand it based on what our sage of blessed memories say. When the Yidden introduced to say Nasa before Nishma, we will do, and then we will listen. So the angels came. They tied to each one of the Jewish people 2 crowns. Echad keneged Nasa, one to correspond to Nasa. Echad keneged Nishma, one corresponding to Nishma. One for saying that we'll do, and one for saying that we'll listen. So it's known the question about this. Then in the beginning of this saying of our sages, they say when they came first, that they said first. Why were they tied, these 2 crowns? It's because they said Nasa before Nishma. But in the end of the Maimer, he says, Echad keneged Nasa, Echad keneged Nishma, one for Nasa, one for Nishma. The Shnei Aksorim heim, aber Nasa and Nishma Hasma, the 2 crowns you get for Nasa and Nishma themselves. And explains, the Rebbe Marash explains in this Maimer that opens with the same, with that opens with B'Shoshik Dimu, Shenemra B'Shabbos Parshas Bamidbar Lifnei Meir Shana, which was said hundreds years ago in the Parshas Bamidbar. From the time that this Maimer was said was in Tavshin Chavtes, so it was 100 years before that the Rebbe Marash said the Maimer. The Nasa who Kabbalas oil Malchus Shamayim. When we say Nasa, that is accepting the yoke of the heavens. of the heavenly kingdom. The Nishma Kabbalah Sel Mitzvahs. And Nishma is accepting the yoke of the mitzvahs, doing the mitzvahs. The Inyan Hagdomas Nasa Nishma, what is the idea of Nasa before Nishma? Like our sages tell us, why does this section of Shema come before Vo'im Shemoya? Kadei she'ikabel oil malchus shemayim tchila. First, he should accept upon himself the yoke of the heavenly kingdom. So that is the Shema Yisrael, the first portion. And then Vo'im Shemoya v'achach ikabel oil mitzvahs. And then he should accept upon himself the yoke of mitzvahs. So he explains there, the parsha is Shaino, Hirotzoi Umesiras Nefesh. The first section is running and self-sacrifice. Totally giving yourself over to Hashem. Parsha Shni Yishuv, and that's doing the mitzvahs in the return. Just like when running and returning. First, there needs to be the run, and then there can be the return. Similarly, is by the two acceptance, the acceptance of the yoke of the heavenly kingdom and the acceptance of the yoke of mitzvahs. That before you can accept the yoke of mitzvahs, we have to have the acceptance of the yoke of the heavenly kingdom. So based on this, he explains over there, Bashomru Razal, what the sages say, why does he say that when they said it first? Even though these two crowns correspond to Nasa and Nishma itself. One for correspond to Nasa, one to correspond to Nishma, is kibichdei shegiya hashuv Nishma. In order for it to be the return, the Nishma, the mitzvahs, you need to first have the Nasa, the Kabbalah Shemai. Mamshich, and he continues the Maimer, why were they tied crowns? Why specifically crowns? A crown is surround. Circles. There is two aspects in the crown. Aliyas mimale b'soiviv, to bring up the level of fill that fills the world into soiviv. V'amshochas soiviv mimale, and to bring that which surrounds into the mouth. So which is the Chesed? So you have the two ksorim, because one is mamshich into and one is maile from Memale to Sevim. So what it means? The Chesed shekeneged nase rotzui. The Chesed that corresponds to the nase rotzui, who aliyas Memale b'Sevim. That's going up the Memale into Sevim. The Keser shekeneged Nishma, the Keser which is correspond to Nishma, Shuv, who Amshochas Seviv B'Male. That's bringing down Seviv into the B'Male. Yeshloimar. So now the Rebbe adds, as we can say, the Zeh Shemoisi B'Hamaimer. This is the Maimer that he adds. Shezeh Shekostru Lahem Shnei Ksorim. And the reason they tied for them to Ksorim Keser Hu Makif, because Keser is Makif. Why is he adding that the Maimer Hu? Ki Meloshin Razal, because from the language of our sages of blessed memory, B'Shah Sheikdim Chulu, Koshru Lahem Shnei Ksorim, that they tied them the two crowns, Mashma, it seems shadiuk digdimu nasa lenishma, that the specific emphasis, that the specificity that the nasa comes before nishma, shaykh lishnei haksorim shekeneged nasa v'nishma. So that is tied to the two ksorim that they got for nasa v'nishma, v'loy lenasa v'nishma atzmo, and not just to the nasa v'nishma itself. So it's not enough to explain that nasa is rotzuy and nishma is shuv, the Kabbalah Seil Malchus Shamayim and Kabbalah Mitzvahs, but we want to also explain in the level of the Keser, because the Lashon Razal, it's mashma, the two Ksorim also have the idea of Nasa v'nishma, that Lochem Mevayer. That's what he explains. The Keser u'makiv v'shevet. That Keser is surrounds and circles. Shnei Ksorim heim shnei yonim v'shevet. And the two Ksorim are two aspects within Sevet. Because this explains, this is the explanation, that why these tying of the two crowns, that the crowns were tied through dimunas l'nishma. It's an explanation in the Keser. Kidel, come on. This that he explains first, before this. That you do need to make nasa before nishma. We have to have the rotzu before the shuv. That explains nishma, that the keser, which is corresponds to nishma maki v'soivev, udavke kisha nishma ulachre hagdim odanasa. That's davke when the nishma comes after the introduction of nasa. Ki maki v'soivev hu lemailo mishaychus loyalus. Because maki v'soivev is higher than being connected to the world. We keep on shenishma hu shuvam shochel lamata. And since nishma is the return, bring it down below. Lochein zeshe koshru keser maki v'soivev shamayim oilam. The fact they tied the keser, which is higher than oilam, connected nishma shochel lamata to correspond to nishma that goes below. Udavke mipnei shanishma hoyo la'achri agdoma denase. That's davke because the nishma came after the introduction of nasa rotzim elila mailo. That's where we can have the hamshocha lamata. So first we have to explain why first we have the nasa and the keser, and then it can come the nishma down lamata. Oisches. So now the Rebbe is going to explain how come we need the Hagdomas Nase before the Nishma. We need the Rotzei before the Shoiv by the level of the Makifim, since the Kabbalah Oil Mitzvahs, the Nishma, also is Bittel. Why is it necessary to have the bittul of Kabbalah's Oil Malchus Shamayim before we have the bittul of Nishma Oil Mitzvahs? The Tzorich Biurs, we need to an explanation. Harei Klolus Inyan the Kabbalah's Oil. Generally, the idea of accepting the yoke. Gam Kabbalah's Oil Mitzvahs. Also, when we talk about accepting the yoke of mitzvahs, which is the nishma, kubitl, that's the level of subjugation. The inyan habitl hu, what is the idea of subjugation? Hu sha'odom yotzei mimitzuusei. The person exits, goes out from his who he is from his mitzias. But we're saying here that when is the tie of the keser that corresponds to nishma, to the mitzvahs, udavke kishahanishma hula'achrei hakadimo denaisa. It is only when the nishma comes after the introduction of naisa. Why? And the Rebbe explains that the level of keser, there's two levels of keser. There is the keser, which is above having a shaykhus, and there is the keser which surrounds. And these are the two kesorim. And the highest level of the keser is the first keser that comes Kabbalah Shel Malchus Shemayim. Let's Shloimar Habir Bazek say the explanation. Alpia Yadua, based on what is known, Sha'amakiv the keser who amitis hamakiv. The makiv of keser is the true makiv. Shalamailo v'hamakiv hashayich lipnimi, which is beyond a makiv which has a connection to the pnimi. The zeu hachiluk bein keser legalgalta. This is the difference between a crown and the skull. The galgalta hu makiv hashayich lipnimi. The skull is a surrounding, but it's connected to the inner. This is similar to the skull by the person. It surrounds the brain, but it's connected to the brain. So it surrounds it, but it's connected. Because the skull is part of the body, just as the brain. But the makiv of keser, that's a makiv which is higher than a connection to the pnimi. The dugmas keser kipshutai, similar to literally a crown. It is a crown that surrounds both the mind and the skull. There's no connection with the keser, with the person. A crown is from precious stone and not from the human body. Even though the galgalta, the skull, is also referred to as keser, zehu bechlos, in a general way. But the main keser, that is a makif that does not connect to the pnimi. Because shalamaylo makif the galgalto, which is on a higher level than the makif of galgalto, that is the level of keser. So while galgalto is also surrounding, but that's shaykh to the pnimi. Similar to the rotzin, the level of rotzin, which is the koyach makif by the person. The rotzin hu makif al kol hakoychos ve'ivorim. Rotzin surrounds all the powers and all the limbs. Sheyesh boy shtei madregas. There exists in rotzin two levels. Harotzin lasis eze dover al yidei hakoychos shaloim. The desire to do something through using his powers. The rotzin zed that level rotzin im hayoyse shoylet al kol hakoyches, although he dominates all the powers. Lifi shu makiv aleim, because he surrounds them mikol mokaim. But yet ze atzmei shu rotzin bepulas hakoyches, the fact that he wants the koyches to do something, hu haychocha, that is evidence sheyesh loy shaychus aleim. He has a connection to them. This is like the makiv, the galgalto, the skull makiv. Who Yerida, that's a descent to relative to the rotzin itself. Who lemaila rotzin is that it's higher than the will to do something to use the koiches, which is called the makiv de keser. That would be the makiv de keser. This that in Chag HaShavuos we get the level of keser, who amitis hakeser shalamayla megalgalta. That is the true keser, which is higher than gold. Similarly is also to the anochas, to the amshochas hakeser, which came down through Hagdomas Nasa Nishma. We have, that's the higher level, like the Keser of Shavuos, Sheim Makifim, Shalamayla Meshayches Lepnimi. They are Makif, which is higher than connection to the Pnimis. And therefore, Bapizeh, Yesh Levair, Shekshiras HaKesher Shekeneged Nishma, Oiso Davka Gdei Shekdim Onasa Nishma. Can explain now why tying the Keser that corresponds to Nishma came specifically after the introduction that Nasa comes before Nishma. Kabitl the Kabbalas Eil Mitzvahs Hu Bitl Le'orotz. The subjugation, if you accept the mitzvahs, you are subjugating to the will, you're doing the will. Since the mitzvahs are command to the person, the mitzvahs, so then this will of Hashem for mitzvahs, while that of harotzin the adam, that is similar to the rotzin by a person that wants to do through his powers. Makiv the galgalta, that is a makiv of galgalta. That's the keser of nishma, of mitzvahs. Makiv the keser, but to get the higher level, the makiv of keser, makiv shalamayla meshayches lepnimin, a makiv which is higher than having a shayches lepnimin. Uayidei habitl the kabbalah sel malchus shamayim. That is through the bitl of accepting the yoke of the heavenly kingdom, which is bitl lebal harotz, not to the rotzim, but to the master of the rotzim. But when they said nasa before nishma, kosher lahem shnei ksorim. They got two crowns. Echot keneged nasa, v'echot keneged nishma. One corresponding to nasa, one to nishma. Kal yidei ha'agdomas nasa nishma, because when they said nasa before nishma, kam ha'bitl the kabbalah sel mitzvahs. So also the bitl of accepting the mitzvahs, it's in such a way that you can feel openly that it comes from the bitl of accepting the heavenly kingdom. So that's in the Kabbalah Sol mitzvahs, you sense the Kabbalahs to the Baal Harotzin. That's the Hagdomas Nasa Nishma accomplishes in the Nishma. To explain the advantage that takes place in the bittul of the Nishma that comes through the bittul of Naisu to Balarotzin. Yuvaman, the commercial Amailo, just like above, a bitl, the Kabbalah's oil mitzvahs, Ulaharotzin, Gilu, the bitl of Kabbalah's is to the want, the revelation, by bitl Kabbalah's oil Machal Shemayim, Ulabalarotzin, it's to the master, Ulahaderach Zel Benegei La'odom. Similarly, it's as it relates to the person. Shaka bitl the Kabbalah's oil mitzvahs, Giluyim Da'odom. The bitl of accepting the yoke of mitzvahs, those are giluyim of in the giluyim to the person, which means sheyasa kol ma sheyitztava, he'll do everything that he's commanded. V'yiseirim mizu, and more than that, shazeh lasish ma shenitztava yiratzon shaloi. This to do what he was commanded, that becomes his will. His will matches up with what Hashem wants it to do. But Ba'bitl, so this is in his giluyim, in his expression. That's where the bitl of mitzvahs. But Ba'bitl Kabbalah She'el Malchus Shemayim, the bitl of accepting the kingdom, is not in giluyim hu ba'adam atzmi, is the person himself. His entire existence entity is that he is a servant of the king. The king who kings HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when this understood, that the advantage of accepting the heavenly kingdom relative to accepting the yoke of mitzvahs, it's also to the extent in the matter, in the aspect of how much subjugation. The Kabbalah's oil mitzvahs, when you're accepting the yoke of mitzvahs, nishar etzloi uboy, by him and in him, is left over mitzias she'ena b'teila. There is some peace, there's something there which is not bottled. But v'amitis habitl, the true subjugation, u'b'kabbalah's oil malchus shemayim, is by accepting the yoke of the heavenly kingdom. In that case, that is his whole entity, is the entity of the king. So why do we need then Kabbalah's oil mitzvahs if he's totally bottled? So why do we need to be in mitzvahs if he's totally bottled? So that bittul should not just be a theoretical bittul, he's an eved, but it should come down in the actual observance of mitzvahs. So when the bittul of nishma, the accepting the yoke of mitzvahs, comes after validei hakdomas habittul the nasa, and after there is the bittul of nasa, which is kabbalah shel malchus shemayim, shenirgash begilui. So then you can feel openly because it followed kabbalah shel malchus shemayim. The kabbalah's mitzvahs follow kabbalah shel malchus shemayim. So then you can sense openly that he will accept, that he accepts upon himself to do everything that is commanded. Because he himself is this servant of the king. So then also the subjugation of nishma is in his entire entity, as it is connects to his open koiches. It doesn't fit at all that he should not do the tzibur. So it's not just a bittul, but the nishma, he's not the metzia, so therefore it comes down to his actual doing everything, but not because a separate bit, that is because his whole entity is the entity of the king. Oistes. So we can add further. So the Rebbe explained that we need the bittul of the nasa to come down to the nishma and the kima mitzvahs, so that the oil malchus, oil mitzvahs should also be done not only b'tzad bittul to the rotzen, but to the bala rotzen. But the Rebbe says this is actually the ultimate kavanah, is the shuv, is the oil mitzvahs. That's the kavanah. V'yesh lahosim the kamoy sheberotze v'shuv, just like in the rotze and shuv. Tachlis hakavanah the rotze, the ultimate intent of the rotze b'shvil hashuv shel achrei rotze, is for the shuv that follows the rotze. Al derech zeh ubenaseh. The same thing is by nasa v'nishma. When we talk about kabbalah soil malchus shemayim and v'nishma kabbalah soil mitzvahs, shein k'mei rotze v'shuv is rotze v'shuv. Shetachlis hakavoneh, the ultimate intent. The nasa sheyov l'nishma, that the nasa should bring to the nishma. B'alidei hakdomas nasa l'nishma, and by introducing nasa before nishma. Shenase hu hagdom lenishma. That the nase becomes an introduction before nishma. Mitoisef ilui benase. That adds, when you have nas before nishma, so then there's the nasa becomes bigger, because when the nasa leads to the nishma, is the nasa becomes an advantage. Ki habitul the nasa mitzad atzmei, for the subjugation of nasa on its own, if it doesn't lead to the nishma. Although it's a subjugation of self-sacrifice, which is a subjugation on the highest level, that's still bittul of the person. The person is bottle. But through the nasa becoming an introduction to the nishma, so that he accepts the yoke of mitzvahs shuv, the shuv, and bring it down below. That way, the intent of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have a dwelling place below becomes fulfilled. Kavonas ha'atzmos, that's the intent of the atzmos. So therefore, you are elevating the nasa because it fulfills now the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Tachtonim. Because the nasa leads to the nishma, which is the kavonas ha'atzmos, which is higher than the total bittul of Mesiras Nefesh, the highest level. But this is the kavonas ha'atzmos. V'yesh lahoisiv sha'amayla de nishma sha'alidei agdom gdima de nasa, that the advantage of the nishma. Here we were talking about the mile of the nasa. But the mile of the nishma that comes through the introduction of the nasa, alo'inya the nasa atzmei, ugam behabitl, is also in the bitl. Also on the level of bitl, it's on a higher level. The bitl the nasa mitzad, the bitl the nasa mitzad atzmei, u'sheinoi mitzias la'atzmei. The bittul of Naisa becomes a greater bittul, not just because it's mashlim b'dira b'tachtoinim, but the bittul of Naisa becomes on a higher level when it brings later on to level nishma. Bittul the Naisa mitzad atzmei, because if Naisa on its own bittul husheina mitzias la'atzmei, he's not a mitzias by himself. Urak avdei shel melech, as we said before, he's a servant of the king. But v'alidei hakdomas nas lenishma, by having nasa before nishma, shabitl the nishma, udugma sabitl the nasa, that you also bring down the bitl of nasa into the nishma, habitl hugam ba'metzias the odom. So that bitl is not that he's not a metzias, but also in the metzias odom becomes the level of bitl. Yud. Similar is the two aspects that we were talking about in the Rosh Chodesh Sion, the shleimus of Sfira and the Moiled Avon the Bittul. Habitl Yom Hazeh, Habitl the Midbar. No, those are, I said wrong. The two in the Rosh Chodesh Sivan we talked about, within the bittul itself we talked about the two aspects. The bittul of Yom Hazeh, the Ava, is a level of bittul. And we talked about there's a bittul of Midbar. Talked about Yom Hazeh is every Rosh Chodesh. Then the middle of Midbar, what they had over there, they reached the level of Midbar, level of bittul, and then the Yom Hazeh in Midbar is even a higher level. Shamay le the habitl, the Yom Hazeh ala bitl the midbar ubishnein yonim. The mila of the bitl yom hazeh is in two matters. Sha bitl the yom hazeh sha avei bebitl ugam b'metzias da'adam. It also penetrates the metzias of the person. I said before, that way you also accomplish the Rebbe This that the bitl of Yom Hazeh extends also in the person's metzias. And the fact that after it does come in the metzias, it has the level of bitl metzias in the metzias the Adam. That is through bringing on the atzmos. Atzmos can connect the two opposite the bitl metzias to be mamshich the bitl metzias in the metzias of Adam. This idea of atzmos to bring it down to be mechaber this day is also hinted in the language of the pasuk. Explain this to point to all of something you can show with your finger and say this. That only applies to Hashem. This point to Hashem. This is my God, now beautiful. So that's Hashem. To Atzmus, we can say that. Hashem fills all the world. And therefore, He is the true Metzias, everything. And elsewhere it's explained that the true meaning of Zeh is Rak Ba'atzmus on Atzmus. Kipirush Zeh, when you say this, Shudavar Shadavar Sha'imul of Zeh, Hu Mitziusay Shel Ha'isadavar. This, that means that is the existence of that matter. Since everything that is found, even the elevators, the most greatest of revelations, their existence is not on their own, and they hinge on the will of Atzmos. You can't say this is the matter. And this is this pashtus yoim. In the level of yoim, who bitl hazeh, while yidei gilu koyach atzmos. That is the revelation. Yoim gilu hazeh. It reveals the atzmos. Yoim hazeh. That's gilu koyach atzmos. That's Yom Hazeh. V'yesh loymar yidalev shezeh gam hakesher. The bayom hazeh imidbar Sinai. This is also the connection of Bayom Hazeh with Sinai, Midbar Sinai, the second part, the Midbar and the Sinai. So Midbar we discussed before, but Sinai, they did not receive the Torah, so there's a hatred for the Umasaylam. The Kamoy Yisrael Kiblu HaTorah Mipnei Shekofa HaKadosh Baruch Hu Aleim Har Kigigis. His goals of Israel, just as they didn't receive the Torah, was because Hashem put the mountain over them like a jug, which means that there was a tremendous revelation of love. That was that mountain Kigigis. That there was a love for Yaakov. Same thing is with Negei as it relates to the nation of the world. They did not receive the Torah. Because there's a hatred to Musailam. Ves Esav Sonesi. The Pasuk says, hate Esav, that came down. The Abba to the Yidden and the hatred to Musailam. When we say love Yaakov and hate Esav, That's not because of the advantage of the fact that the Torah brought the Torah around to all nations, all languages, that proves that the Torah comes from a very high place. That all the miles would not be sufficient. Hashem is still trying to give it to the nations of the world. That your children to God is not sufficient to give them the Torah. They don't not grab place there. And the Yidden and the nation of the world are equal. Halach Esau Yaakov. Esau is a brother of Yaakov. But Hashem, in his free choice, as Yaakov says, he chose to love Yaakov and to hate Esau. So we're talking about Atzmos with the Midbar, with the Sinai. For the reason why was there hatred of Umasoilam? Because that's what Hashem chose in his free choice, to hate Umasoilam. Because the main Bechir is Atzmos. It's same by Yom Hazeh, it's that Hazeh. Sinai, brought to the level of Sinai. Midbar Sinai, level of Sinai. Al derech zeh ugam benegei lo'inyan the Sinai. Also, the idea, second aspect, that Sinai sheyordu Sinai liyetzer hora should be Yisrael. There's a hatred to Yetzer hora which is in the Sha'yidei zeh niten hakoyach levarer hamidas the nefesh habahamis. Through this sinner that has gone down, we have the power was given to sort out the midas nefesh habahamis. That is through revealing the power of the Atzmos. The fact that the godly soul is bottled godliness, which includes also that the expansion of the nefesh elikis ava ibibitl einay chidush kol kach. That's not such a novelty. The main idea, where do we see the power of Atzmos? The Yom Hazeh, which is revealing the Hazeh, the Atzmos, ubezeh shebo midbar Sinai. They came to midbar Sinai. Sinai biru v'zichuk haguf v'nefesh habahamis, sorting out and refining the guf v'nefesh habahamis. Elo. So you also have this idea that to knock the negative to the Sinai, the Bamidbar, Sinai to the Sinai, the Gilui of Yom Hazeh, but the main explanation is the Midbar. Sha'af became Iker Abir Barichus Beprotius at length, and specifically Badrush Shabatoyer Bamaila Dreshodish Sion, who began Habitel the Bechinas Midbar or Medaber, the level of the Bittel of the Midbar. Because over there, the advantage of that is that the Metzias is bottled. Midbar, Birur Hamidas Nefesh Habamis, the sorting out of the Mid Nefesh Habamis. Derech Zeh Shametzias Avo the Nefesh Elikisi Bebittel. That so while we have this Maila, the main Maila is V'chinas Midbar. The Maila Shagama Matzias Ubotl Birur Hamidas Nefesh Habamis. Al derech zeh shamatzias avad nefesh elikisi bebitl. He shall yidei zem is galakoich Atzmos kenal. We're talking about because the power of the Atzmos gives the koiches to us. That's the level of the sinah. Aval bichdei lohoirer ulahamshich ha'inyan dematan toira hamshochas ha'atzmos. To bring down hamshochas ha'atzmos, That reveals the koich ha'atzmos. But how do we bring down koich ha'atzmos? Why they are bitl abo me'etzem ha'neshama. That's the bitl that comes from the etzem ha'neshama. The bitl zeh magia ba'atzmos. That reaches in the level of atzmos. And from there, we come later on to the additional bitl, bitter hamidos, and nefshalikis the abbas bebitl, and the other thing begilui. But the main thing is to be mamshich through the bitl of the etzem haneshama, and that's reaches the atzmos. Yes, the kashrus zeim zeh, the kashrus zeim sheberesh chodesh can tie this to the fact that sheberesh chodesh Sion how you call Yisrael kish echad b'leiv echad. All Yidden were like one man with one heart. V'omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so Hashem said, "Harei Yashor she'etin lehem es Torasi." Now is the time to give them my Torah. Ki zeh shehoyu ki ish echad b'leiv echad. The fact that they were like one person, like one heart, while yidei hagilu the shoresh haneshama, that is by revealing the root of the neshama shalamayla mehaneshama mulabashes beguf, which is higher than the neshama which is in the body, but the revelation of the root of the neshama, because they were kishach b'leiv echad, the muvur betanya shakol Yisrael imachim mamesh udavke mitzat sheresh nafsham, that all these Yidden are brothers actually because of the root of their soul. And therefore, this that they were like one man, that reached all the way to the level of atzmos. And this aroused by Hashem, so to speak, the desire to give them his Torah. Yudbeis. And that's what we say, בחודש השלישי ביום הזה. הגם שעניין דיום הזה הוא בכל ראש חודש. The idea יום הזה is every ראש חודש. עיקר העניין דיום הזה הוא בראש חודש השלישי is on ראש חודש of Sion, the third ראש חודש. העניין הוא כמבואר בדרוש הצמח צדק. The idea, as explained in the memorial of the צמח צדק, the חודש הראשון הוא בחינת סיהר המלכוס. First month is like the level of the moon, level Malchus. Ta'agam shegam b'Rosh Chodesh Nisan yesh hayichud t'shimsha v'sira. Though Rosh Chodesh Nisan there is also that union of the sun and the moon, Zol Malchus. Mekol Makom, but yet Rosh Chodesh Nisan ha'ikra Malchus, mainly is Malchus. The Chodesh Ika Iyar Nikra Ziv, the month of Iyar is called Ziv, who are Yisoid Shemeir b'Malchus. So that is the Yisoid that shines in Malchus. That's the level of Zoh. Yisoid of Zoh that shines in Malchus. That's called the Ziv. Bezesha Yisoid Nikra Ziv. And the reason why Yisoid is called Ziv, Hulifishu Ziv Ha'ora Bilvad, because it's only a ray and a shine. U'b'chodesh ha'shlishi. So, but on the third month, Mekabelas HaMalchus Mitiferes. Not only from the level of Yisoid, which is a Ziv, but Malchus receives from Tiferes, the Hamshoch, the Yichud. The Tiferes who are Gilui Da'avai. In Tiferes is a revelation of Shem Havai, Shem Ha'etzem. That comes down into Malchus, the Yichud Shimsha V'sira. Hainu Shagilui the Chodesh HaShlishi, the revelation of the third month, Uloi Ziv. It's not just a Reik, Hagilu the Chodesh Ir, and the Gilu Ha'etzem, but it's a revelation of the essence. And therefore, Ikara Inyan the Yom Hazeh, Rosh Chodesh Sivan. The main idea of Yom Hazeh is on Rosh Chodesh Sivan, Chodesh HaShlishi, the third month. And that's why, Chodesh HaShlishi, you get the idea of Yom Hazeh in the fullest. Idea Hachona LeKabolas HaTorah B'Chodesh HaShlishi, Yom Hazeh Rosh Chodesh Sivan, by preparing yourself receiving the Torah b'Chodesh Shli b'Yom Hazeh on the Chodesh Sivan. Hein b'birer hamidas nefsha b'hamis Sinai. Whether it is sorting out the midas of the animal soul, which is in the level of Sinai, that's working out and sorting out and elevating the nefesh habahamis. The midbar, that's the godly soul. Especially the aspect of like one man and one heart, which is a chodsh Sion. This is loving thy fellow is the Torah. We merit receiving the Torah with joy in an inner, and we extended for the entire year.